expected to do. That's what our people want. And all I said this a few years ago, all they want is we want more, they want more. We don't want more. When I walked into Devin, the first budget year out, I said, nice job, but I said, I'm
All right, good evening, folks. I'm going to call this meeting to order. If you all please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, roll call, please.
Birthday boy.
Happy birthday.
Alderman Barella.
Here.
Alderman Rucker.
Here.
Alderman Ross.
Here.
Alderman Morose.
Here.
Alderman Hoffman.
Here.
Alderman Osteen.
I'm still here.
I know you're still here, I see you. And Mayor Harmonson.
Here. All right, we do have a quorum. We're going to move on to citizens' communication. This is a time set aside on the agenda for citizens and visitors to address the mayor and board on any topic that is not a public hearing. For those here in person, speakers will be restricted to 3 minutes unless otherwise permitted. Minutes may not be transferred or donated from one speaker to another. Any questions or comments for the mayor and the board may also be sent to the city clerk at tberreth@osagebeach.org no later than 10 a.m. on the board meeting day, the first and third Thursday of each month. Submitted questions and comments may be read during the citizens' communication section of the agenda. The Board of Aldermen will not take any action on any item not listed on the agenda, nor will it respond to questions, although staff may be directed to respond at a later time. The mayor and the Board of Aldermen welcome and value input from the feedback from the public. Is there anyone here in person who would like to address the board? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to the approval of the consent agenda. Has the board had the opportunity to review the board of minutes from December 19th, 24, and the bills list, January 2nd. And if there's any comments or questions, we'll take them at this time. If not, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Alderman Morose, do I have a second? Alderman Ross, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, the consent agenda has been passed. 3 items for unfinished business tonight. First, we have Bill 24-88, an ordinance to the City of Osage Beach, Missouri, establishing a hands-free driving ordinance. This is a second reading. Chief Davis, please.
Nothing further unless anyone has any questions.
All right. The board have any other comments or questions? Alderman Rucker.
Todd, did you get a chance to find out my answer?
I checked with Cole and.
Well, let me tell the rest of the board. My question that I called Todd was, how does this relate to our golf cart ordinance?
And Todd did ask me, and I did not get a chance to go chapter and verse on that. I believe it does apply, but I will double check and get you an answer on that.
Okay.
If there's some tweak we need to add, we always can, but I think we treat them the same as we treat other motorized vehicles.
Very good. Any other comments or questions? If not, Alderman Hoffman.
Well, just following up on that, if that is the case, I think maybe we should put some kind of press release out stating that. I think that's something that would probably, the people wouldn't know that right offhand, I wouldn't think. Just a thought. Yep.
Very good. Anyone else? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve second reading?
Motion to approve.
Alderman Rucker.
Second.
Alderman Barella, second. Roll call, please.
Alderman Hoffman.
Yes.
Alderman Barella.
Yes.
Alderman Rucker.
Yes.
Alderman Ross.
Yes.
Alderman Morose. Yes. Alderman Osteen.
All right, Bill 24-88 passes. Next, we move on to Bill 24-91, an ordinance to enable the City of Osage Beach, Missouri to join Show Me Pace pursuant to Section 67.2800 to 67.2835 RESMO, the Property Assessment Clean Energy Act. and stating the term under the city will conduct activities as members such district. City Attorney Cole Bradbury, please.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board. I have nothing else on this, but happy to answer any questions.
Questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, do I have a motion to, Alderman Ross?
No, I was just going to
Oh,
approve.
all right, you're ahead of me. We have a motion to approve Alderman Ross. Do we have a second?
Second.
Alderman Hoffman, roll call, please.
Alderman Osteen, Alderman Morose,
Yes.
Alderman Ross,
Yes.
Alderman Rucker,
Yes.
Alderman Barella. Yes. Alderman Hoffman.
Yes.
All right, second reading, 24-91 passes. Last item, unfinished business, we have Bill 24-94, an ordinance of the City of Osage Beach, Missouri, authorizing the mayor to execute a service agreement with the law office of Todd Miller LLC for an amount not to exceed $30,000. City Attorney Cole Bradbury.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board. Again, nothing further on this, but happy to answer any questions.
Questions from the board? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve second reading?
So moved.
Alderman Morose, do I have a second?
Second.
Alderman Ross, roll call, please.
Alderman Rucker,
Yes.
Alderman Ross,
Yes.
Alderman Barella. Yes. Alderman Hoffman,
Yes.
Alderman Morose,
Yes.
Alderman Osteen.
All right, first item of new business is a public hearing. It's a public hearing, special use permit, case number 415, Chris and Sarah Brand requesting a SUP to remodel and build an addition onto existing residential use in a commercial zone. City Planner Carrie Patterson.
Yes, Mayor, members of the board, bear with me a little bit. I'm struggling with a little bug here, so if I start hacking a little bit, just give me a second, I'll get through it. As the mayor said, this is a special use permit request by Chris and Sarah Brand to remodel and do an addition to an existing residence in a commercial zone. This subject piece of property is down in the commercial Wilson corridor. Most of you probably know that's the second right off of Passover Road. The basics of this is this is an area that was previously, back in the 70s and 80s, a lot of old, smaller resort buildings that they had. And then sometime in the early 80s, a majority of those were then sold off to individual owners. So what you have in there is now what used to be resort cabins made into homes. And one of the things that we often see is that once families start expanding a little bit, those little resort cabins need a little bit of TLC to make them livable for a family. This particular situation is the Brand's own 4 properties on Pintail. They're asking to do an addition on the existing home. And one of the things that you'll see, and this is not something that happens very often, but it is the third time that it's happened since I've been here, that it not only requires the special use permit, which handles the use of the resident in the commercial zone, but it also required a variance to be granted by the Board of Zoning and Adjustment because the addition couldn't meet the front setback, which is 25 feet requirement, and their setback was just over 23 feet. So about 1.5 feet inside the setback. One of the things that they had to do, obviously, before we can grant the special use permit was to go to the Board of Zoning Adjustment and have them review their request for a variance, which they did at their meeting on December 18th, and that variance was approved at that meeting. We took this request to the Planning Commission December 10th at their last meeting. They do forward it to you with a recommendation to approve.
All right, thank you very much. This is the public hearing part of this. So is there anyone from the public who would like to speak in favor or against? All right, seeing none, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion to close the hearing.
Alderman Rucker, do I have a second?
Second.
Alderman Hoffman, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, public hearing is closed. Next, we'll move on to the agenda item, a special use permit, case number 415, Chris and Sarah Brand requesting SUP to remodel and build an addition onto existing residential use in commercial zone. Carrie Patterson, you have anything else?
Haven't anything further unless there are questions.
Any other comments or questions from the board? Alderman Rucker.
Was there any public comment at the P&C meeting?
There was not.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, seeing none, do I have a motion to approve?
Motion approved.
Alderman Ross, do I have a second?
Second.
Alderman Hoffman, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Special use permit is passed. Next item, new business, is Bill 25-02, an ordinance of the City of Osage Beach, Missouri, authorizing the mayor. Did I miss one? Ah, sorry. I was so proud of myself. Second time using the computer, and I missed a button. All right. Bill 25-01, an ordinance of the City of Osage Beach, Missouri, authorizing the mayor to execute a consulting agreement with Land Shift LLC for the City of Osage Beach SS4A grant administration in an amount not to exceed $111,425. Assistant City Administrator April White, please.
Yes, Mayor, and members of the board, and Tara, I just noticed that should say lane shift, not land shift, but it looks right on the ordinance, but, so as part of that $1 million federal Safe Streets for All grant, we solicited for requests for qualifications. We received 4 proposals. And then the steering committee, we all got together and scored those 4 proposals and settled on lane shift. And they have provided a not-to-exceed contract totaling $111,425, excluding travel. And I recommend approval and can answer any questions.
All right, questions from the board? Alderman Rucker.
Yes. Do they not have a cap on the expense?
No. Not
So
that I
how
know.
are we
Or
going
no,
to?
not to exceed. You mean, do the federal,
No, this contract. I guess my concern is we're not going to know how much we're going to be able to spend till we're done with this. In other words, the base contract's $111,425, okay? So that's the contract. So if we take that off the million, we know what we've got left to spend. But now we don't know what we have to spend.
What-
As they go out and do all this consulting and stuff and come back to us with projects, we don't know how much money we have to spend because we don't know what the travel expense is going to be.
oh, they estimated the travel at 10,000, but the other portion, the 111,000, is not to exceed.
Okay.
So-
So the travel expense is expected not to exceed 10,000 total?
That's what they estimated in their contract.
Okay, so as we move forward, we can anticipate 121,000 or some change.
Right.
$21,000 is what we've spent, so the remainder is what we have to project. Okay.
Yeah.
That's where I was a little not clear, so, okay, that's all my question was.
Any other questions? Alderman Ross.
Where are they located?
Bentonville, Arkansas.
Well, they're all, okay. Well, there's 10,000 seems like a lot of travel, but okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
Alderman Hoffman.
Well, just on the follow-up to that, can we not cap it at something?
Do what?
Can we not cap the travel at 10,000 or something? I don't know if that's possible or not.
And it's not the way the contract was written, but, I don't know if they can, at this point, if they know how many, trips they'll make up
I mean, it's
here.
Bentonville, I'm sure they're driving up, right? It's not like they're flying first class
I
from
don't think
LA.
it's so
but-
much travel, it's probably how long they're going to stay each time.
Yeah.
I was
Lodging.
just throwing it out there, I don't really have an opinion either way.
Alderman Rucker.
Yeah, what's the time length? What's the anticipated time on this project? Is that
So
built
we-
into there, saying how long it's going to last?
we anticipate the grant to be completed in a year and a half or 2 years is generally how long FHWA has seen that these research and planning grants usually take to complete. But from the day of award, we have 5 years to spend all the money. So it's kind of a indefinite timeline. We have a guess of 2 years, basically.
5 years from the federal government?
Yes.
But how long do we have do we have that much time on the contract if we need it? Or do we only have 2 years on the contract?
No, the contract mirrors the federal agreement.
No, I'm
So,
talking
yeah,
about
so-
excuse me, I'm talking about the contract with the consultant.
For the life of the project is how long the contract.
Yeah.
So yeah, if we have a deadline of 5 years, then we couldn't obviously spend any more money out of that grant at that point.
Alderman Ross.
So I guess I would just ask, what incentive do we have for them to, what incentive do they have to at least control travel costs? Seems to me like they have an open checkbook. Am I wrong?
I mean, I don't know if I
I
can
mean, yeah, I think,
intelligently answer that, but.
the consultant seems reasonable. I think if we bring up a concern of excessive travel costs, I think they could hear that and be fine with it. I mean, we've already conducted several different meetings with them digitally. I don't foresee them coming up here just to come up here. I don't think that the incentive to not come up here is that they're probably not really making any money by doing that. That travel is expensive. I don't think that we're not getting gouged by the travel prices, I don't think.
Just a comment.
Anyone else?
Well, I do have one more question.
Alderman Hoffman.
Sorry, where do they stay when they come up here? Because, if you stay at Camden, it's $400 a night. If you stay at, Pantera, it's $200 a night. I'm just wondering, again, you just said travel costs are a lot, but we're really the ones paying for it, right?
First of all, I would expect them not to stay at either one of them places because neither one of them
Or
are in the
Osage
city of
Beach.
Osage Beach.
Right, so that's, it just seems to me like maybe the
That's
whole.
not bound in the contract. I don't think we have any say at this point.
Okay, it seems like we don't have any say in any of the travel to me right now, but.
Alderman Barella.
When the committee met, we went through all 4 applicants and did a scoring sheet, and they came that they were the most qualified. I mean, we did have somebody that was local that was also here, but.
But did they say they were going to come up with 4 people,
more.
twice a month, or are they coming up, do they know where they're
I don't
staying
think we
every
got
time?
into like micromanaging their, how they work or.
I think we should cap that personally, but that's something. 10,000 a year. I don't know what the number is, but I think it should have a cap. And I mean, this is the industry I work in. I see what travel does in my business. So I'm just applying it to what I think we should be responsible for here.
Yeah, I think a lot of what they're going to do is, virtual and electronic, but I mean, if that's what the board, if you want to put more restrictions on there, then I guess we can look at that, redo the contract.
Any other comments from the board? Alderman Rucker.
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Alderman Barella. Let's do a roll call vote, please.
Alderman Hoffman?
No?
Alderman Barella?
Yes.
Alderman
Yeah.
Ross?
I'm sorry, Alderman Ross?
Ross?
No.
Alderman Morose? No. Alderman Rucker?
Yes.
Alderman Osteen?
I don't know how this works.
Is it appropriate to is it too late to to reconsider and make an amendment?
Well, that motion, first reading just failed.
No, but I understand, but so can we make a separate motion on that subject?
Well, technically, the way I understand it, I mean, we can at the next meeting, but we cannot,
We're still on the subject. Is there any reason why we shouldn't be able to?
We just failed it. We should have done the motion or amendment before we voted on it.
Well,
Okay, fair enough.
yep. All right, moving on. Bill 25-02, an ordinance of the City of Osage Beach, Missouri, authorizing the mayor to execute a contract with how do you pronounce that? NAPHIDE for the purchase of 2 service bodies for an amount not to exceed $82,291.75. This is the first reading. Public Works Manager, Zach Wilbur, please.
Thank you, sir. Mayor, members of the board, we'd like to purchase 2 service truck beds from NAPHIDE. One will be for the water department and one will be for the sewer department to fit the 2 cabin chassis that we bought last year. There is a pretty good price difference in the 2 trucks due to the crane needed on the sewer truck, and that's why that one's a little more expensive, just because they need to pull those pumps and move those pumps. Other than that, it's pretty straightforward. They come out of their respective lines and will cost the city $82,291.75. I do recommend approval. Thank you.
Comments, questions from the board? Alderman Ross.
My apologies for not getting this to you before, but my question is, were these replacement trucks or additional trucks?
They were, one was a replacement initially, but without us adding in that other truck for the water department, we'll have to switch that 150 that we were going to replace with the 250 now. So,
I guess-
yes.
So the
one's a
basic
replacement,
question
one's
is,
an add.
are we selling a truck that also has a service bed on it? And if so, why can't we use that service bed?
We're going to take that truck that we're going to sell and put the service body on the foreman truck and then get rid of that old truck. And so we are essentially using that same service bed that we have and just getting rid of the 140,000 mile truck that we're getting.
Okay, all right, good, thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve first reading?
So moved.
Alderman Rose, do I have a second?
Second.
Alderman Ross, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, first reading passes. Next, we'll move on to Bill 24-05, an ordinance of the City of Osage Beach, Missouri, amending Chapter 715 Sewers and Sewage Systems, Section 710.180, connections permit purposes of the city code for various purposes as set forth. This is the first reading. City Attorney Cole Bradbury.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board. As we discussed at the first meeting in December, I believe, this is the ordinance concerning outside city sewer connections as directed by the board. What you have is an ordinance authorizing this particular type of agreement, as well as an example agreement that would carry that out, that ordinance out. There's also been some research numbers put together by Zach and Drew that kind of shows the a P&L per sewer can, if you will. And it shows why taking on that infrastructure, even at out-of-city rates, is so darn expensive for us. Essentially what they did, we worked together, they did all the hard work, but they looked at the various costs incurred in maintaining a sewer can over its life, and kind of amortize those out, if you will, spread those out monthly, so that you can see what the monthly pro rata share of that is, compare that to our rates, and that is what it costs to maintain a can, and that's why the staff is not recommending we take on the cans outside city limits and only accept the service, the sewage at the corporate valve. Tell me if I said that right. Corporation valve, where the service line meets our main. And with that, I'm happy to answer questions, but I really hope they're for Zach and Drew.
Comments from the board? Questions? Alderman Rucker.
I just have a number of them, to be very honest. First of all, on the blue sheet, it says here that the form agreement that's attached would be approved by the board. Are we talking about that this form will be approved, or that each form will be approved?
Based on the direction that we got from the previous discussion item, we would be bringing each one of these back to the board for approval. That was the direction that we felt we received.
I would like for the board to really consider that very difficult, that I don't think we should. I think it's the responsibility of this board to pass legislation. That's for us to pass the guidelines, pass the rules, and we have staff to carry that out. And therefore, I think that we should be telling the staff what provisions and what guidelines there are, which we are doing, and then they should be the ones who should be accepting it. That further being said, I'm familiar with the situation we have right now that's going on, that when you get somebody coming in here, we've got one that we've had for 2 months plus, but that's because of this situation. But when somebody comes in here and wants to connect to our system, it should not have to wait for the board. I mean, these are contractors. So they come in here, they catch us. Somebody comes in today, okay? Somebody come in this last Monday and applies for it. Do you realize how long it's going to be before it's going to come to the board? It's going to be almost 3 weeks before it comes to the board. And that's for first reading. And if they got to have second reading, we're looking at 5 weeks before this thing gets approved, before this contractor is out there knowing if their system's approved or not, or this person that's wanting this done. What kind of a delay are we putting on that? I think that we should set the guidelines out and give the authority, especially for single-family residents. Now, if we get into a system that's going to possibly require some financial future funding from the city, then I think maybe the board needs to have a little bit more involvement. But for these systems, I think that we should be giving the staff the guidance based on the information they gave us, and they should have the authority to take care of that.
Can I answer that one? If we were to go that route, just if that's what you want to do, I think we would need to add an additional ordinance or an additional probably section to this ordinance explicitly authorizing the city administrator or her designee, probably would be the way to word it, which is how a lot of our other ordinances in this sector are worded, to accept them up to a certain number, and we can put our heads together tomorrow pretty quick, to up to a certain number of horsepower, or a certain number of customers, or a certain class. I'll defer to these guys on what they know is best, but to draw that line at something above single-family residential but below Tantera Estates, for instance. But we would need that, in order to do that, we would need an ordinance authorizing staff to execute these giving staff standing permission to execute these contracts on behalf of the board, because normally contracts come to the board. And we do that all the time for other contracts. So we have ordinances authorizing that. And I think the mechanism you're looking for does require another ordinance that you don't have in front of you tonight. If that makes sense.
Alderman Ross.
Well, my impression on the reason it came to the board was we're trying to just understand what this is all about, because I had no idea that there was that many going on. It made it sound like. How many do we have in the queue right now that are waiting for an answer on this from out-of-town folks?
There's a handful, for sure.
So 5 or 6?
Yeah.
And so how long have they been in the queue, would you generally estimate?
Ranging from a few weeks to maybe upwards of 5 or 6 weeks.
5 or 6 weeks? Okay.
And
So that's already happening. Go ahead.
I was going to say that some of those we would have been ready to do, except that we knew this was coming and we hit pause.
Right, yeah, we've hit the pause button. I mean, besides this portion of it, they're ready to go. And we were just waiting on this mechanism and how the board wanted to proceed, because I was looking into how I needed to proceed and didn't really find a clear definition of what to do. And so I kind of raised the red flag, and then we looked into this a little further. So that's kind of where we are, is I've got these ready to go, but need board direction, approval, how to allow these or not allow them to hook into city utilities.
And to piggyback on that, what will end up happening if first reading is approved tonight, we'll come back in 2 weeks for second reading, along with the first reading on the batch of ones that's waiting, at which we won't do until the ordinance is final, but that will let us get those moving, and we could do those first and second along with an ordinance, if that's the board's direction along the lines of what Alderman Rucker said. But that's what it would look like if we went that route.
I just think so that we can better understand how this is, because I think there's going to be, I really don't know what those things are and the situations are on those. But at the end of the day, this is definitely a different direction. And I believe that that's going to drive some feedback.
Well,
and I personally would like to see how some of these are going so that we can get an idea of what the effect of some of these decisions are.
Yeah,
Because that's how we tend to catch, I've seen it over the years a few times, but that's when things end up at the board, is because of things going on that we didn't really understand what we were doing. So I think this would be a good way to demonstrate that. And my impression is after a few of them, we'll probably go, oh, I get it, go right ahead. And I thought that was how the discussion went. So that's where I'm at.
Alderman Hoffman.
Well, I agree with what you just said, except I think we're already there. I kind of like where Alderman Rucker was going with that I think the big stuff is what we need to be focused on when it gets back to the board. I have a feeling that, kind of going with my gut, that the feedback is going to come back that the staff was perfectly capable of handling it. So that's kind of where my gut is. I kind of like the way that Alderman Rucker lined it out.
So currently, most of what we have going on are pretty routine connections, nothing multi-family, no condos, nothing huge or big. There's one that's technically commercial, but it's also really the size of residential. It just happens to be a commercial property. So the ones that you're going to get potentially this first round are pretty run-of-the-mill.
Yeah, we've got the campground. No, they're already connected though.
Right, yeah. So.
Any other comments from the board? All right, based on Alderman Rucker's comment, though, you were saying if we were going to go with what Alderman Rucker was saying, this could be passed as first reading, but you'd need to write another second ordinance, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Everybody understand?
Yeah,
All right.
so we'll proceed on with this here.
Right.
And since we have at least a couple of us, then you would go ahead and prepare another ordinance.
It'll actually be we could even make it a floor amendment to what we're approving tonight, because it'll go in the same section, if you wanted. So we could have a proposed.
I don't want to delay this process here.
Well, we could get it done with the second reading next week with a floor amendment. We'll get it to Tara, so it's in the packet. But it'd be one or two sentences. It'll say the board, the city administrator, or his or her designee, are hereby authorized to execute such and such agreements up to whatever standard, whatever line we draw, to keep the run-of-the-mill stuff off from having to gum up the agenda. For the record, what Alderman Ross said is what I understood our direction to be. Is we're going to do a batch of them and see how it goes. But if the direction is accelerating the way Alderman Hoffman said, then that would be the quickest and most efficient way to accelerate.
Yeah, I would like to see it be clean and quick, but to me, the line of demarcation is residential and commercial is kind of where my head was at, but.
It's something around there. Like Drew said, there are very small commercial properties that would be indistinguishable from residential from a use point of view, I'd imagine. Like a small boutique probably uses less than a house with 3 showers in it. But we'll find a objective, bright line to draw that makes sense for the sewer department and still make sure that the board sees the big stuff.
I'm kind of looking at this as businesses expect to have delays and go through stuff like this, and families need their sewer kind of immediately. They got kids. To me, that's where the line is. But I trust you guys to come up with something close to that.
We can put our heads together tomorrow and come up with something in 5 or 10 minutes. That shouldn't be too tough.
Alderman Rucker.
Okay. I'm pretty certain this thing's going to pass. It seems like the board is in favor. We're just working through this stuff. So what gets done after this is passed with those systems that we have out there that we don't have an agreement with? Are we going to try to go back to them and revisit them, or have you given that any thought yet?
Not.
And if not, I would appreciate if you could give that some thought and see how many we've got out there and see if we want to try to clean that up.
There's not a lot of media. We can talk about that when we talk. I think more likely probably the easiest way to do it, we hate the word grandfathering, but it's the layman's term for prior nonconforming. But if you think of those as being grandfathered, then when and if they come back and need another approval would be the logical time to say.
You could put anything after the approval date of the ordinance.
Yeah.
As well, so.
Shall have.
Anything that we received prior to the approval date of what you're looking at today would be something that you can do without the agreement.
Something along those lines. But, if somebody disconnects and then reconnects, we would ask for it. If somebody enlarges their service we'd ask for it. If there's a new development or a relocation, kind of the same way we deal with.
Okay, based on what I see here, I'm understanding that if it's a small one can, one person, one resident, or maybe two, they would still maintain the can, the whole bit. Okay, so what do we do in here? What do we put in place so that when I come into the city, or I'm outside the city, okay, and then down the road, you know, the city chooses to annex, because it's the city's choice at that point. They choose to annex, and then now I'm in the city. Will my can then be the city's responsibility? And at that point, or how does that transfer, or does it transfer?
This doesn't answer that question, to be very blunt. It doesn't provide the answer to that, and I think that is a question that would probably depend on the city's policy and approach to cans at that stage, because where we're at in 6 months is one story, where we're at in 6 years or 60 years might be another. You know, a future board might say, we're not accepting another can ever, anywhere, or anytime. And if that's the case, and we annex somebody in and we don't own their can, that board might say, we're still not gonna own it. A future board may also say, we'll take every single can we can get.
We can handle that in the annexation agreement
And it
as
would be, I guess, I was gonna say the annexation agreement, except that we've provided for not having to have one. But short answer is, if we annex them without any agreement to take it over, it still stays private. That's where, and it gives us, it would give the board at that point the option to say, you know, we think it's fair that we take this over, or we don't. But that'd be a decision for that board at that time, and annexation has to come in front of the board always.
So we're not hamstringing future boards.
But exactly, you're making no choices for future boards on that.
Anybody else?
I'm still going, sir.
All right.
On the chart that you provide us here, I'm assuming what that is telling us all the different scenarios, whether it's the revenue rate of 2023 or the revenue rate of 2024. I mean, you've got 8 different charts
so
here.
the first, I
just
prepared
confused on
those.
what all
For, yeah, so the first couple of them is for a single user on a single grinder station. And I just wanted to show over the last year, basically, of what those rates look like and where the break-even point would be on maintaining that for its life. The second set is, 2 users on a single station, and with the rates the same way.
Okay. Going into the annexation of utility service covenant agreement.
Yes, sir.
This is a standard agreement that you're going to have, but not everybody's going to be inside the city of Osage Beach. You're going to have people that are going to be in Kaiser, Lake Ozark, and Lynn Creek. So that's not the standard form, right?
It is a standard form, but it's a Word document. We just PDF'd it to get it into the packet. So it's,
Okay.
I mean, we'll have to edit it because it'll be Grantor 1, Grantor 2, their address. It'll be, so we put Osage Beach because almost everybody is going to have an Osage Beach address. But yeah, if we have a Kaiser or a Lynn Creek address, that yes, it would change with it.
So walk me through the process down the road. Who's the grantee?
Us.
Okay, you say us. Who?
City.
The board?
City.
The mayor? The city administrator? Who is the grant? Who's the one that's going to all of a sudden say 10 years from now that I want that who's the person or the body making the decision whether to annex that property or not?
Presumably at the end of the day, the board will vote on it. So most likely what's going to happen is somebody in staff, whether it's the planner or the city administrator or public works or some other staff member will say, we should annex that property because A, B, and C, because we need to annex it to get to another parcel we're trying to bring in, or because it now has a sales tax producing use on it, or something like that. But
I want to know who the grantee is.
It's the city. So then staff would bring a petition to well, first of all, we'd go to the owner and say, you know, we need you to bring a petition to us. And if they don't, then we have the power to do it for them. That's this power of attorney. Staff would bring it, submit a petition for annexation, and the board would decide whether or not to grant it.
So the
Same as-
board's the ultimate decision maker on both of the situations.
At the end of the day, the board ultimately makes the decision. Now, the idea is probably going to come from staff, but we've had ideas, the dog park, come from aldermen. You know, if a particular, it could be the constituent. You know, it could be a number of things. There aren't a whole lot of reasons for us to go kind of willy-nilly annexing random parcels. So more likely it's going to come up in the context of a bigger push towards a specific goal and not a random. I'd really like to bring Ty's house in today. You know, that's not. I'm picking on you, sorry, but you know, that's not possible. I mean, it's theoretically possible, but that's not how it would come up.
Well, what would bring it in, you know, the ideology of, you know, specifically is for us to initially be contiguous with that property. So, you know, the majority of these that we're going to have come in, we won't be contiguous with. So it's not something that we can even say this is going to happen, but at some point or such point that we have, you know, voluntary or even involuntary annexations. I don't know that we're going to get into the business of that, but if we do have voluntary annexations that bring us and put us in contiguous with some of these properties or a group of these properties, that would be the point that we can at least, you know, say, now we're in the situation where this portion of this ordinance is interacted to, you know, give us the opportunity to bring them in by way of annexation. And then, you know, we can, I guess we assume we would have that discussion with the board of what the board's interest would be. Do you want us to pursue it? You know, whether that be letting them know, hey, you're now contiguous. Would you like to go through the voluntary process and we'll bring you in and do, you know, the normal process? Or if they don't want to, then at that point, it would be up to the board how you want to proceed. But regardless of any of it, whether voluntary or involuntary, you know, the board is, especially voluntary, the board is the, you know, ones that approve any annexation into the community. Involuntary, it's the voters ultimately, but the board takes that
I understand all that. My concern is, though, when we're creating a document that says, you know, we're basically, the board is approving that document, the board is approving it. We've already approved that annexation semi.
No.
And that's what I want to make clear. I want to make clear that this board is not doing that, that the future board is the ones that have that decision-making process whenever that future is. That's what I want to guarantee.
It is a consent to annex. It is not a request, and it is not a grant. So all it is voluntary annexation is a contract between us and the property owner coming in. This is getting pre-approval from the property owner that they'll come in. We still have to want to bring them in. So most likely what's going to happen is staff is going to, you know, when and like Harry said, when and if we get contiguous with a parcel we have one of these on, we would look at it and go and say, there's an advantage to the city to bring this property in. Because it produces sales tax, or if some future board has a property tax, and you know whatever that ends up being, because I don't even know.
Yeah, but there'll be just as many times where the board can look at it and go, listen, we don't have the money right now to provide all of the other services, which is why the board has to hear it.
Yeah.
So if the board at any one time, you know, says anybody who comes in and asks for annexation, the board can always say no simply because, listen, we don't just provide this particular service. We also provide police and ambulance, and then could we take over streets, water and sewer? And there will be plenty of times where the board can go, just by way of finances, we're not ready to take over your
Well, there's
property.
many complications that this is adding to the annexation, is what I'm looking at, because what you're looking at down the road, and this board needs to realize, is 10 years down the road, you all of a sudden say, oh, we're going to do this. Well, first of all, if you've got 10 properties, for example, that now you want to make contiguous, you're now having a loss of revenue, because our revenue is going to go down from because our sewer rates are extremely less for in-city as compared to out-of-city.
Exactly.
No.
Yeah, in-city.
We don't supplement it anymore, do we not?
Yeah, we do. We still
Yeah.
do.
Oh, yeah, we have, the rates for out-of-city sewer rates are
quite a bit higher.
Double?
Roughly double.
Roughly double. So that's one of the things that we have to consider. We have to consider the fact that, you know, there's certain services we're going to be providing and not. I mean, the ambulance service, we won't be providing ambulance service because we're surrounded by ambulance districts. We cannot take that property tax away from those ambulance districts. So, I mean, this is just adding one more thing that we've got to do, and I don't want to make it so complicated that it becomes difficult to do the annexation.
It just gives us the option. That's all this does.
I don't think that it does.
And it obligates us to nothing.
Okay.
I think we said that quite explicitly, but you know, this, because I'll tell you that there is a different version of this document out there. That when I was looking for, you know, we try not to reinvent the wheel where we can avoid it. Another city in the state has a required, but theirs is, they have property tax, number one. So when they bring somebody in, they instantly get tax revenue. But theirs is a petition for annexation, and it says when it becomes contiguous, this petition shall be submitted and we're off and running towards the annexation. We intentionally did not do that here because that's not what we were going for. We are not, as soon as we're contiguous, and it has to be contiguous and compact. But we're not saying as soon as we're contiguous, you're in. That's not what that's not what we're going for. This is simply once we're contiguous, the city may, if it's in the city's best interest, to do so.
The way this is written, it is 100% that the city is the benefactor to this. It does not tie us down. It does not do anything. This is only if it is a positive for the city to do, will we enact it.
And the board has to determine it's a positive, or doesn't have to, or can vote no.
Last but not least, you know, my biggest concern is the fact that we're operating a lot of these right now without agreements. So we can just leave, you know? I mean, but now that we have an agreement, you know, we've got to make sure it's a two-way street. And that's why my last question is coming about. Right now, if I understand correctly, we have the authority to make sure what they're putting in the sewer is stuff that's supposed to be going into the sewer, okay, for people within our city limits, okay? We have certain things that we tell them they have to do, and we could literally go into that business to make sure they're not putting stuff that's inappropriate into our system, okay? What safeguards will we have now, and do we need to put some of those safeguards into this agreement here, because these are people outside our city. They're not getting use permits from us. They're not getting building permits from us. They don't live inside our city, so we can't go out and pull an inspection. There may not be, we have no control over their zoning. I mean, we have all kinds of controls over people within our city that we can look at to make sure that they're doing the right stuff. We don't have that control outside the city.
Do we?
Because we're accepting their sewer, you know, before the can. If we were accepting it, or we're accepting it after the can, excuse me. If we were accepting the can, then we'd be able to go into the can and get some samples and get some stuff. Maybe we'd be able to do some things. I mean, that's where my next concern is. I want to make sure that we've got that going on, that there's some way or another we can safeguard our system.
I think that's not a bad idea. I think it's a great concept. I don't think this is the right document for that, because this is something that's going to get recorded and we're just trying to hit the forever stuff with them. But it wouldn't hurt to have in our utility services agreement, when they sign up with the treasurer's office with Keegan, having provisions in there, that are more contractual. This is a deed function. I mean, this is something that runs with the land and stays with them forever. But contractual can be more, this is the forest. That's kind of individual trees, but we can handle the individual trees in, what you can and can't put in the sewer via something like that. And that could be in I think that's something that's worth looking into, because we don't have that in, at least not as far as I know, in our utility connection agreement. But it would be very easy to say that, thou shalt comply with chapter 710 as part of your connection.
Yeah, they have to submit plans for review to connect to the sewer, and it has to be approved and it has to be inspected for acceptance to happen. At this point, I don't know what else happens in town.
Yeah, I do like the insight on that, because it's got wrapped on sewer a little bit too, but there is some water outside of city limits. and we don't own water mains, we only own the water meter at those locations. We can't really tell them what to do with it because we don't own it. If they have a leak on theirs, we would hope they'd fix it, but they're not bound by the ordinances like most people are. So it could just, I mean, we have a problem with water loss. It could just leak out until it becomes a big enough problem where they want to take care of it. So I don't know how it fixes what we have, but could be something going forward where we have more authority to have them fix problems, leaking water lines, leaking sewer, or what they're putting in it.
I think it's a great concept, and it's something that we could handle probably more through through our connection agreements.
I'm okay with just,
But-
whatever way we get it handled.
But doesn't, yeah,
You know,
right.
somebody outside had a restaurant and we didn't have any way that we could handle their grease trap.
I mean,
It'd be a problem.
the short answer is, I mean, ultimately, the ultimate issue with it is we do have the recourse of just unhooking them for the most part, but that, you know, it'd be nice to have something short of the nuclear option.
Thank you.
Thank
That's
you.
enough.
Nope, that's good. As far as Bill 2503, oh, I'm sorry, Alderman Ross?
So first of all, I want to recognize Drew and Zach. Almost 8 years now, I've been looking for, what would I say, financial analysis that looked like business case documents that helped us understand what kind of investment this makes. And this is the first time I've ever seen it, so thank you. But what's interesting is it tells us that we're probably losing money providing sewer, at least, to people outside. And since 2006, when I was on the Public Sewer Committee, that's what I've been screaming about. And I was just told, well, whatever, okay, go away. I think that this data that you guys have provided gets us to open a door that we need to take a hard look at how we look at our out-of-city resident or out-of-city sewer rates. I don't know about water, that's not really in here, okay? Because the idea that, well, whatever we charge the folks in town, we'll just double, that's good enough, doesn't look good enough to me, okay? Because I don't think we should be losing money, all right? And so with that said, thank you for bringing it up, and I think we got more work to do. That's all I have.
All right, anyone else? All right, what I was going to say, as far as Bill 2503, if I understand correctly, we either need to amend this one for passage, or you're going to pass this one with a second ordinance.
So this one is good to go the way it is.
Okay.
We will either bring a floor amendment to this one for second reading with the contract, which would be a separate vote, but would be the contractual authorization that Alderman Rucker referred to. You know, city administrator or his or her designee language we talked about. And we can either do that as a second reading or we can do it as a separate ordinance.
Okay.
But this, I think, I'm not hearing any objection to the language that's been proposed here, and it's just, we're going to add some on to it.
Very good. With that being clarified then, do I have a motion to approve first reading?
Motion to approve.
Alderman Rucker, do I have a second? Alderman Morose. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, first reading passes. Next, we have a motion to approve the purchase of a boom mower from Atmax Equipment Company for a price not to exceed $287,109.38. Again, Zach Wilbur.
Mayor, Board, Alderman, this was the boom truck that got added back into the budget, first meeting December, I believe. It is a dedicated boom tractor, but with the attachments on it, you can additionally, that we will buy, we'll be able to plow snow and blow leaves out of the right-of-way for us. We're also going to use this heavily to clear sewer and water easements. With the terrain we have, guardrails, the steep side hills, it'll be very handy. We've tried to do it with boom mower attachments for tractors, and we bend the control arms quite frequently on them just because of the torque and stress we have to put on them. So having this, we'll be able to get around the guardrails, enhance the beauty of the city, and then also clean up some of the easements that we have that have been growing up for the last 20, 30 years. It's very versatile. We have demoed it, a lot of off-road capabilities. out of this, there's this and the Mantis, and this is the one that we see the most benefit out of. It is part of a cooperative purchasing agreement through Buy Board. It costs $287,109.38, and I do recommend approval.
All right, comments from the board, questions? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Alderman Rucker, do I have a second?
Second.
Alderman Hoffman, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion to approve. We have another motion to approve the rebuild of 5 sewer pumps by SRO Mo for a price not to exceed $42,975. Again, Zach Wilbur.
Thank you. Mayor, members of the board, we currently have 5 pumps at SRMO. They have been evaluated for their condition. The prices per pump follow. We also wrote the price of a new pump. A few of them do get close, just because of the cost with rewinding the motor is kind of fixed on the pump size. As it gets bigger, it does get higher, but to rewind that motor, when you're talking the base price of $8,000, because our purchase price isn't that great, it does get close to. From our knowledge, this is the first time those pumps will be rebuilt, so we should still see a lot of good useful life out of them. It is total for the 5 pumps to rebuild is $42,957, and I do recommend approval.
All right, comments, questions from the board? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve?
Motion approved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, Alderman Ross, Alderman Moreau, second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Very good. Next, we have a motion to approve the purchase of an F-550 service truck from Broadway Truck Centers for amount not to exceed $174,989. Zach Wilbur.
Thank you. Mayor, members of the board, this one might get a little tricky. I'll do my best to explain it. So we have approval to purchase 1 large service truck. Between this motion and the one following it, these are the 2 options that we have. The Ford is under the state contract, and it costs $174,989. They are comparable in use, with the exception that the Ford does have a Bobcat welder attached to it. Both vehicles are available right now. The Chevy, however, does not follow our purchasing policies. But at the price point, it was worth bringing it to you. I did price out a new truck if we don't go with either of them. If we wanted to look at a 2025 versus 2023, the price for the new truck is $72,000, and the price for the bed is $100,000. So it's roughly the same if we would do it ourselves versus buying this from the dealer. I would like to answer all questions just so make sure everybody's on the same page. This vehicle will cost $174,989. Thank you.
Alderman Hoffman.
All right, so we're saving 20 grand by you going with the Chevy, right?
Yes, sir.
Tell me,
Yes, it
Yeah,
doesn't have
it-
that welder, but yes.
do you have, other than the welder, is there any compelling argument for going with the $174,000 vehicle?
No, and actually the guy saw the Chevy at the Summit Safety Conference. It was down there. So we've looked at it. We've seen the truck, and it'll do everything we need it to do.
That's all I needed to hear.
Alderman Rucker.
So is there 1 of these or 2 of these in the budget?
There is 1 in the budget. So if we were going to follow our purchasing policies for this Ford, it's $174,000. If we want to buy the Chevy for $20,000 less, we deny this one and approve the other one, or vice versa, however the board sees fit. There's only 1 truck available.
Alderman Rucker.
Devin?
Yes.
You made no comments on the second. I realize we're talking 2 different items here, but on the second item,
Yes.
you made no comments on it. Did you just did you just miss it, or do you have negative? There's
There's no comments on either,
There's no comments from the city administrator.
on either one.
I just didn't know if you just got busy or if you were against it, or I didn't know.
I
that on. As a rule follower, I am not in favor of going against our purchasing policy. But I also understand that that's $20,000 that is savings. So to follow policy, I would recommend going out to bid and waiting for the bids to come back. But that also takes the risk that the truck isn't available anymore. So I will let the board make that decision.
And
Alderman Barilla, I'm sorry.
Why does that second one not follow the purchase policy?
in order for the purchasing policy, it has to be a cooperative bid, like the state bid, like the first one does. Or we have to go out for an for a bid for it, which we didn't do. And I did this in the past once on a used ditch witch. It just, to go out for a 2023 truck that's available now, it'd be hard to write a bid for it. Obviously, we'd get bids for that and other bids, but it was just, it's available right now sitting on the lot. So I thought it was worth putting it on the agenda, which we could just go for this 174.
Alderman Rucker.
To follow that up, though, the purchasing policy is the policy that is set forth for the city. The board has, whenever the staff cannot follow the purchasing policy, the board has to approve it. So it's not like we're going against, if we approve it, it's within the policy for us to do that. It's not like we're going against our ordinance. So the staff is doing what they have to do according to the policy, but the board has the authority to accept that, and that's within the policy. I happen to be the editor of that policy.
All right. Any other comments or questions on this? All right. With that being said, do I have a motion to approve the purchase of the F-550? I'm sorry?
Well, make sure you specify which one, because they're both
That's what I
F5.
said, the Ford.
The first one.
I'm sorry, the first one, motion to approve the Ford 550 service truck for $174,989. All right, do we,
Excuse me, that was the more expensive one.
correct.
Correct.
Take
Nope.
it off.
Okay, she did not mean to motion. All right. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Alderman Rucker. Do I have a second?
We need a motion.
So we can
We
say
need a motion.
second.
All right, it's been,
Why do we need a motion? I'm confused.
yeah, I thought it would die, but,
Yeah, I think it can die without.
yeah,
Without a motion or a second,
Yeah.
it can die.
right.
I think it can die without.
But since we do have a
You
motion
don't
and a
have to have a
second.
negative, a positive or a negative vote?
Just vote it down and
Yep.
Already
gets to
made.
the same place.
We already made it.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? All those opposed?
Aye.
All right, motion does not carry. Next, we're gonna move on to motion to approve the purchase of the Chevy 5500 service truck from Ed Morse Chevrolet in Lebanon for an amount not to exceed $154,700. Zach Wilbur, anything else you wanna say?
Thank you, sir. Sorry for the confusion.
That's all right.
This truck will do everything we want it to do. Price tag is $154,700. Thank you.
If there's no further questions, do I have a motion to approve? Alderman Barilla, do I have a second?
Second.
Alderman Ross, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion to approve the 5500 Chevy. Christmas was last week, Zach. Motion to approve the initial startup cost for Heartland Environmental for an amount not to exceed $81,800. Zach Wilbur, please.
Thank you, Mayor and Board of Aldermen. This is another budgeted project. This is going to be our approach to the H2S issue. This will be the initial startup cost. We did leave some room left in the $100,000 just in case we need to do a re-up on the bacteria or add additional aerators. The initial investment will put 58 aerators in 58 separate lift stations and add 7 bacteria drips around the city. The bacterial drips will be on the outside of the city. They'll grow as they move through the city. Aeration keeps them in an aerobic state and not producing harmful anaerobic byproducts. The main The main benefit, in my opinion, is, the asset life, the reduced H2S corrosion. A byproduct will. The H2S produces the smell, so we'll eliminate the smell throughout the entire city, hopefully. Drastically reduce it to the point where we won't have an issue. $81,800, and I do recommend approval. Thank you.
Comments from the board? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Alderman Morose. Do I have a second?
Second.
Alderman Ross. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion carries. All right, last item of business. Motion to approve the purchase of 10 2-horsepower pumps from municipal equipment for a price not to exceed $26,287,050. Zach Wilbur, please.
Thank you, sir. Mayor, members of the board. A couple months back, we were hurting for some 2-horsepower pumps. In order to get us into the new year to do our next big purchase, we needed 10 of them. However, when I asked for approval for the pumps, I made a mistake on the item cost. When that invoice came in, it came in over the $25,000 purchasing limit, which could be approved. I now would like permission to move forward with these 10 pumps, to pay them for the 10 pumps that we bought. I'm happy to answer any questions. Ultimately, this was an error on my end, and I'm sorry for the inconvenience. Price $26,287.50. Thank you.
All right, comments from the board? Alderman Ross.
I have one comment. I don't think that it's your response, that it's your mistake. I think it's the fact that our MEC folks are not providing accurate and thorough quotes. So I'll leave it at that, and I appreciate you bringing it forward and falling on the sword for them. Thanks.
Any other comments? Alderman Rucker.
24 or 25 budget?
It'll come out of the 24 budget on the invoice date, which it still fell in budget and didn't make any, didn't alter or push it over at all.
Okay, anyone else? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Alderman Ross. Do I have a second?
Second.
Alderman Barella. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion carries. All right, moving on to staff communications. We'll go to City Administrator Devin Lake.
I have nothing this evening. Thank you, Mayor and Board.
All right, Assistant City Administrator April White.
I just wanted to mention, especially since Michael couldn't be here tonight, that transition away from / that happened on December 30th was quite an undertaking, and Michael and Travis worked well with / and now we have switched over. Huber was on site today, setting up, well, they already did on the 30th remotely, but they were on site today, getting all that set up and checking out our system and making sure that transition went well, and so far, so good. That's all I have.
All right, thank you much. City Attorney.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board. First of all, I have a follow-up for Alderman Rucker. I did look it up, and yes, the texting ordinance does apply to UTVs, golf carts. It's anything motorized whatsoever, and that's actually out of the state law definition that our ordinance adopted. So we'll see if we can't put together some press, public information on that, just so everyone's clear on that issue. Other than that, Happy New Year. I don't have anything else to offer today.
Very good. Chief Davis.
We had a couple promotions in the communications division. Haley Scott and Wendy Foster were both promoted to lead communications officers. So we started that on Saturday.
Nice. Ron White, Building Inspector.
Nothing really to report. The only thing we've got pressing right now is we're in the process of scheduling interviews for department secretary. And that's it. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. And I missed you, Tara, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's all right. I have nothing, thank you.
All right. Kerry Patterson.
Yes, Mayor. So we will have a planning commission meeting for the month of January on the 14th. We had one meeting of the Board of Zoning Adjustment in the year of 2024, and we will have at least one meeting of the Board of Zoning Adjustment in 2025. So we will have a BZA meeting on the 15th of January. So back-to-back nights for those folks, and listen online if you want to, and that's all I have.
All right, thank you much. Airport, Ty. All right. Maddie, you have anything?
I got nothing tonight.
All right. Drew? Nothing. Have you talked enough, Zach?
I got stuff. Thank you, sir.
You're over your limit.
Yeah, I want to thank the Transportation Department, along with the help from the Water and Sewer Departments. Did an excellent job picking up leaves this year. We finished on time, close enough to call it on time, even with 10 days of delays. Did a great job, worked really hard. And good thing, because now it's time to start pushing snow off the ground maybe. With the weather coming in, I just want everybody out there, we noticed some severe issues when the temperatures drop below 15 degrees. So if you would please consider dripping your water, might save a water meter from freezing and breaking, and also keep your services continuous. On that same aspect though, if you do run into a problem, feel free to call. We'll be out there thawing out meters. Thank you.
Do you want to explain about the dripping, what they should do?
Yeah, it doesn't take much. As long as you get it, I mean, it does need to be drip. As long as that water can keep moving, it's harder for it to freeze. But yeah, just slow drip, or, I mean, it's going to be...
But outside?
The inside.
Inside?
Yeah, so just go to the farthest, as far as your house is concerned, to help your house out too, the farthest faucet you have from the incoming water, and drip that line. That way it keeps it moving through the whole house as well, just in case some of your plumbing gets close to the walls.
Does it matter whether it's hot or cold?
Cold water will save you a little bit of money. Yeah.
All right, very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Carrie, you have anything?
Sure. Happy New Year, Mayor and Board. I wasn't at the last meeting in December. The first quarter is the busiest time for the Finance Department, and my team is gearing up to work on W-2s, 1099s, and a whole laundry list of other things right here in the beginning of the year. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Alderman Rucker.
A couple of things. First of all, just to follow up what Zach said, I would say that you're almost correct, unless you're like I am, that you've got a hot water line that's the only line that goes in your attic. And if you don't have a drip, twice it will freeze on you. So I'm hoping that's the last time. But anyway, a couple of things. First of all, Chief, I'm sure that your department was, I know your department was involved with this operation along with a number of other ones, but great job on the situation out at the middle school. Quick action. I was so glad to hear that the next day that they had that person, and I just hope they throw the book at them. So good job. I just want to tell all the staff and the board, thank you for the last 6 months. It's been challenging for me, and each and every one of you have been very, very generous with your words, your prayers, your help. You're picking me up, and I very much appreciate that. I'm doing extremely good. I have my chaperone out there that has to drive me right now, though, but that will be okay in another couple weeks. So each day is better, and I'm in extremely less pain, a whole lot less pain than I have been. So thank you very much for the past 6 months. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Barilla.
Well, with the weather coming, I think I just hopefully pray that we do get some snow. And want to give my gratitude to Public Works and Transportation early. Hopefully I'll be warming in my house, but I know you guys will be out there working and keeping the streets clean, so thank you.
Alderman Hoffman.
Yeah, I just want to say that the New Year's went really well this year. I saw a lot of people out and about. That's a good sign for our community, industry-wise. Just to everybody out there, there's a lot of great things coming down the pipeline in Osage Beach in 2025. I am nothing but optimistic about the direction of this city, and couldn't be prouder of the staff that we have to back that up. So let's have a great 2025. That's it.
All right, thank you much. Alderman Monroe.
Excuse me, yeah, I've got a couple things. I had heard and read, and maybe some of you had too, but I just thought it would be worthy to make a note about shelters with this horrible weather that's coming in. All the Camden County libraries will be open, and a community church in Camden, community Christian church in Camden, and of course we have Osage Hills here in Osage Beach. We have stop sticks for the police.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, because I saw where it was either Lake Ozark or Camden requested a grant to buy some stop sticks, and I didn't know if we had them or not.
Every one of our cars has them.
Okay. And the only other thing is about getting some bids, if we have the plans or whatever, and not waste much more time for the Veterans Memorial to get on schedule. Do you have a comment to that? Oh, okay. Sorry. Did you hear me?
Yeah, the Veterans Memorial was awarded. They weren't able to get started before winter weather cooled down, and so they are planning on starting construction late winter, very, very early spring, and we hope to have the project completed before Memorial Day.
Okay, because just like to get on schedule before time goes on.
Yeah, the contract is awarded, yep.
Okay, thank you, that's all.
Alderman Ross.
So first of all, some recognition. I had an opportunity, and Chief had mentioned it at the last meeting around the ambulance grant that Tommy had put that together. I got an opportunity to spend some time talking with Tommy. It was very impressive, and recognize her for take the drive and initiative to go out and find that information and take advantage of that potential opportunity. Great work on her part. If you don't know, Tommy's the ambulance supervisor, right? Okay. So great work, Tommy. A couple of questions though. Drew, can you help me out? Why is it that the struggle with the cold weather to do the work on the Veterans Memorial? I'm not sure I understand.
I mean, there's concrete and dirt work, and I think there's a potential irrigation system and electrical out there.
The contractor decided not to go forward for a while, is that right? Or did we ask them not to go forward for a while?
No, it was the contractor's option.
And on a second subject, it doesn't look like there's been any work done on Osage Beach Road since Thanksgiving or before?
Yeah, we've encountered some design struggles with the project, and we are working through some issues with some drop inlets and making appropriate grade based on the sidewalk. So we've worked through that with the contractor, but some of that is also weather related.
What would be weather related, if you could help me with that?
Well, the concrete, if it gets below freezing at any point, has to be covered and insulated for potentially up to 48 hours to prevent freezing so that the concrete attains appropriate strength.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
All right, thank you much. I only have one thing, and this more on a personal note, that I'm going on vacation tomorrow afternoon. And we were talking, Carrie and I, about unrelated thing, Carrie Patterson. No, and one of the reasons when you come in and ask for signatures on different things, a lot of times we do it that day. But they normally put in the ordinance, please allow up to 7 to 10 days for sickness, people be out of town, whatever. So this is one of those cases where I'm going to be out of town for about 10 days. And it's kind of, I just want to share with you, it's kind of a sad, cool story, but when my mom passed a year ago, October, you guys all remember that, and it was just my brother and I were the only two that she had. I think I was a younger one, and when she had me, she said, I'm done. But she left us just a little trip for us. It was kind of nice, because she was always the glue that held us together, and we used to have, Grandma always treated for vacations and stuff, so we're going on we're calling it a momcation. So Kim and I are leaving tomorrow, flying to Florida, and my brother and myself and our wives are going to go on a little cruise on Mom. So leave tomorrow, and then I was invited to go to the governor's inauguration on the 13th. So I will be out of town starting tomorrow, back on the 14th. So you guys can hold down the fort. And I was at the gym the other day, and somebody said, "Did you see the weather Sunday night?" And I said, "Not where I'm going to be." And I'm not even going to tell you what they told me. But anyway, with that being said, I'll miss y'all. Look forward to seeing you on the 14th. And that's all I have. So
Have a good trip.
Thank you. So I do have a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Alderman Hoffman, a second. Alderman Rucker. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you.